Well, welcome to everybody. This was a good news day that all of us have waited and prayed for and hoped for and worked for 10 years. And I can't say how excited and relieved and ecstatic I am. Today is a day that I am so proud of the workforce at Boeing that has done a tremendous job building tankers for our Air Force men and women for decades, and now is going to continue to build them for decades more. This has been a long and, as you know, arduous process for many years, over 10 years now that we've been working on this, and we're finally at the conclusion. And we are finally at a place where we know that the Air Force is going to be having their tankers built by American workers at a time when our economy needs it. It's good for today, but it's also good for our national security far into the future to be able to have this strong aerospace base. General Schwartz called me at 2 o'clock today to inform me that Boeing had won the tanker bid on the 157 tankers to be built, and he said to me that it was won because of Boeing's ability to meet all the requirements at the best overall value. That is fantastic news. And I have to say that as I'm standing up here with so many people who have worked with me for so long, members of our congressional delegation, Boeing workers, so many people in the community who have worked to make this case, that I think back about all of those times when people said to me, when are you going to give up on this battle? And I can say today that winning this is why I never gave up. It's why none of us gave up. It's because we knew that this was the decision that ought to be made. Maria and I and Jay were at the Boeing machinists on the floor when this was announced that Airbus had won the contract. I guess it was 2 years ago now. And I had a woman come up to me at the time with tears in her eyes who told me that her son was on the ground in Iraq flying Air Force tankers at the time. And she said, how am I going to tell him that the planes that he is going to be flying in the future are not going to be made by his mom? Well, I say to that mom today, those tankers are going to be built by you. And I am so proud of that. There were many lonely times in this battle when no one thought that we would be able to win. And I've often been asked, why do you keep on fighting? And I want you to know why. Because it is the right decision for this country to build our military planes by American workers when our American Air Force men and women are the people flying them. It's a right decision because we have the know-how, the ingenuity, and the workforce to be able to build these tankers. It's because we are competitive, and it's because we want this contract so bad. And it's why we ought to be building these. It's for national security reasons into the future, it's for our economy, and it's because we have the best workforce. And I'm delighted that a company who had illegal subsidies didn't win this contract. It would have been a bad message for all of us in this country, for business and workers and American public. But that didn't happen, and it's because we've got such great Boeing workers. I am so proud of the thousands of hours that many of us spent on this. And I'm remembering today, 10 years ago now, when I first started working on this, sitting around a little table in the nation's capital with Norm Dix, who's on the phone. Norm, you remember that moment. Talking to leaders in the House and the Senate about how we could put this contract together. And standing here today, Norm, it's amazing. It took 10 years, never thought it would take that long, but we won. We won for the workers in Washington State. We won for America. We won for our military's future, and I'm delighted. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Cantwell, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Patty. And thank you, Patty, and I'm glad to be here with Jay Inslee and Norm Dix on the phone, and obviously with Tom Olewski, and obviously with Tom McCarthy from SPIA. Everybody here has worked so hard to make sure that today came out with a win. The President, in his State of the Union, said it was time for America to outbuild, out-innovate, and out-educate to win the future. Well, that's exactly what Boeing workers have done in winning this bid. At 2 o'clock, or a little after that today, the Department of Defense called to say that Boeing was a clear winner. And that means huge economic gains for us in Puget Sound. Nearly $693 million annual regional economic impact, 11,000 jobs, and it means that for a long time in coming that the Northwest will continue its excellence in aviation manufacturing. Not only did Boeing win on the best warfighter and fuel burn and MILCON, it was a decisive decision that they were the best plane and the best product. This means that the Puget Sound region will continue its efforts to show that we, not just at Boeing, but all the supply chain that is also represented here today, that the supply chain that is over 100,000 people in Puget Sound will continue to build the parts and services that go along with those defense contracts, continuing America's industrial base in aviation and the importance of that industrial base to us and our national security. So today, the Puget Sound, the Boeing company, but specifically Boeing workers, were victorious in a great effort in what is American competition. So I'm excited to be here with my colleagues. I know that the Department of Defense plans in the very near future to let a $3.5 billion R&D contract to start this system once we go forward in the process. And we'll be so excited to see those dollars finally coming to Puget Sound. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to somebody whose voice is never hard to hear, and certainly has never been hard to hear in this battle. I know he wishes he was here physically, but his spirit will be larger than life. So Congressman Dix, would you like to say a few words?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, I want to, first of all, thank Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell and Jay Inslee and Rick Larson. This was a real victory of our congressional delegation. And as a member of the Defense Appropriations Committee for 33 years, this is, I think, our greatest victory in the history of the state. And having gotten this done back in 2003 by 80, least 20, then having it overturned, and then the GAO's effort the second time around, this is really sweet. And I want to congratulate Boeing for making a very aggressive bid. That was important. One of the things that we changed from round 2 to round 3 was making sure that the Air Force used a 40-year life cycle cost instead of 25. We redid the research, found out from the JROC, the Joint Chiefs, that 40 years was the life cycle. And actually, if you look at the KC-135s, they've been going on for 50 or 60 years. And when you compare the difference in fuel costs, the big Airbus plane burns 24% more fuel. And if you're talking about 150 to 170 airplanes over 40 years at 24% difference, that made a huge difference. But I think it all came down to Boeing making it a very aggressive bid. They had me even convinced that we were in trouble. But maybe they fooled Airbus with all that bad talk. But I know Larry Brown and the machinists are there. The Machinist Union helped us a great deal in Washington, D.C. The votes on the floor, the Inslee Amendment, 410 to 8, and the vote in the Senate by Murray and Cantwell, 92 to 0, showed, I think, the Defense Department that the American people don't want subsidy by Airbus to be not taken into account. So it was a great victory. It's the happiest day of my professional life. Nothing we've ever worked on this hard. And to finally, in the third round, win it, I think win it decisively, as was previously stated. So I'm just excited for Boeing. I'm excited for the workers. It's also a victory, as Senator Murray said, for the American people. How would we possibly have explained building the first 12 of these in Toulouse, France, in the middle of the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. We need these jobs in the United States by a U.S. company, and Boeing is that U.S. company. Congratulations to them for their victory and their D.C. office who worked with us to put this together. Thank you.
Norm, thank you so much, and I'm sorry you can't be here with us because I'd sure love a big hug.
Well, you'll get one. I'm saving it up.
Okay, all right.
Go Huskies!
Oh, no. I'm sorry, we have to deal with that a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Norm. Somebody who is not here, who I know really would like to be, is Congressman Rick Larsen, and I just want to say how much I appreciate his tremendous efforts with us. I remember Congressman Larsen and I going to Ed Board after the last bad decision and fighting an uphill battle to convince people what we knew in our hearts, and Senator Cantwell joined with me at several of those as well, that this decision was wrong, and it did need to be protested, and we were finally proved right. And Rick has just been an outstanding, passionate advocate for the tanker and his constituents, and he is flying back, as we all know now, from his trip to New Zealand, and will be on the ground, and somewhere in the air, I know Rick is doing a happy dance. So, with that, I want to turn it over to another stalwart supporter who has been with us every step of the way as well, and I want to thank him for that, Congressman Inslee.
I have three things I want to add. As a person whose cousins and uncles and best friends have been in the Boeing family for a long time, the U.S. Air Force made official what we've known for a long time, which is the best aerospace workers and the best aerospace families, not just in the state, not just in the country, but in the world, are the Boeing worker and their families. This is official today. And if you listen to the Air Force, they said this was a clear victory, both on performance and on price. A huge statement by the U.S. Air Force. It's something we've known for a long, long time. Second, I think it's appropriate to think of what this means as a legacy for our state. You know, our grandfathers and grandmothers and parents built 12,000 B-17s to win World War II. We built 800 KC-135s, 700 B-52s. And now our sons and daughters and our grandsons and our granddaughters are going to build at least 179 KC-46As. This is a great legacy for our state, and it means that the innovative spirit of the state is going to continue down for the generations. This is a generational victory for what Boeing means and what we do here in the state of Washington. And third, I just want to say we've been at this 10 years, and let me suggest the time for talking about this is over. The time for building a plane has come. And the reason I say this is, frankly, in this bidding process, every possible advantage that could be given to the other team was extended to them. They got a bonus because their plane was too big. They were allowed to take advantage of a $5 billion subsidy to launch their airplane. We even sent them our own bid documents. We gave them every single advantage that anyone could ask for in this green earth, but the conclusion was the same: the Boeing airplane is the best, and the Boeing workers can get this job done.